Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast and our live Texans-Colts postgame show. Boy, oh boy, you're about to hear a fun one. We're part of the National Bleav Network. If you don't know by now, and joining me is contributor Tom Chavarria, co-host of the Bullpen podcast. Hope you guys are out there because we got a lot to talk about. And Tom, I've got some stuff that I'm going to be angry. You're going to get angry, ranting Robert later on in the show. But, I mean, they got it done. It wasn't pretty. There was nothing pretty about this, but they got it done.
Yes, sir. In a league where there were some games that did not go the way we expected them to, this one, I'm glad the Texans got it done. Is there concerns? Is there problems? Absolutely. We will absolutely get into all of those. But the dub was the most important thing. The dub is what we got today.
Yeah, get in the comments. You know the story. And for everybody watching live, we need you. We need you right now because we're going to talk about this stuff. And if there's a couple of things that happen in the middle of the game, trust us that we're going to get there, but we can come back to your comments. And we want to know who's your MVP for this one for the Texans, because maybe it's, you don't know. It's a little bit up in the air maybe. We're going to post reactions, of course. And if you're new to Houston Sports Talk, we go live after every Texans game. Make us a part of your Texans routine. Let's get to the action. We do it this way all the time, possession by possession. Nice Dameon Pierce kick return to the 42 to start the game. Haven't had a whole lot to talk about in the kick return game this year. Ogunbowale gets a 3rd and short, Diggs a 16-yard catch. But after they get to the 21, Stroud makes a couple of bad throws on 1st and 2nd down. Was lucky. Both didn't get intercepted, frankly. And Tom, after a CJ check down on 3rd down and a field goal, I was not happy about 3 straight passes against the 2nd worst run defense in the NFL at that point on the field.
Couldn't agree more. I think Bobby Slowik really needs to adjust to what he's trying to do. I don't know necessarily the ins and outs of all of that. I just feel like sometimes we're seeing a game called a certain way that just doesn't feel right to your eye, right? You just spoke to it. This is a team that should be able to run the rock heavily. Although you have the Ferrari that is CJ Stroud, I feel like they get caught up in an identity crisis sometimes. And I don't know if it's frustrating CJ, if it's frustrating Bobby, but I just don't feel these guys are in sync right now. You see it on the field.
Yeah, and just Alberto underlines what we're going to talk about as this one goes along. He says, Slowik is just so bad. He needs to operate as if we have a bottom 5 offensive line, which we do, but he calls plays like we have a top 5 offensive line. This is all true, and we're getting there. Even more to that later in the game. Bad Texans coverage on the ensuing kickoff. Colts start at the Texans 40. A whiffed Neville Hewitt tackle on a screen. The Colts are already at the 30, but the Texans catch a break, Tom. A.D. Mitchell doesn't drag his feet on that catch in the end zone, so they have to settle for a field goal. But, you know, there's just some little stuff and big stuff that the Colts screwed up all day that helped out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. That team, everybody wants to put in another tier, and I just don't think they're there yet, whether it's with the receivers right now. I don't think they feature Pittman enough. If I was a Colts fan, I'd be more frustrated about that. They're going to Pierce and A.D. Mitchell and some of these other guys, and Richardson just is not making the throws that, you know, a lot of people thought he would coming out of college.
Yeah, I don't know what tier they're putting him in because the Texans have a 91% chance of going to the playoffs going into this game, and you know, that's because they're in the AFC South, and I don't think anybody assumed that the Colts were going to come back in the division. Next Texans possession, 3 and out after Stroud misses Schultz on 3rd and short. Another bad CJ throw, 3rd one already at this point in the game. Townsend, another terrible punt. Wasn't happy with him in this game. Continue not to be happy. Caserio, just on an aside, I think screwed it because Cam was just way better for the Texans, and I don't really understand the changeover, especially the way Townsend has been. Now he's having a bad year, and maybe you wouldn't have expected that. But anyway, a couple of 1st down throws. They force a Richardson incompletion, and then Eric Murray also in that, Tom. He had 3 pass breakups in the first couple of possessions. So Eric Murray really coming on in Jimmy Ward's absence. I got to tip a cap to that guy.
Yeah, normally one of the guys we like to outline as making mistakes and not being the caliber that you would like to see as a safety. Eric Murray played a really good football game today, I think, and I just feel like we're going to have to accept that with some of the bad, we occasionally will get some good, and that's why the Texans still have him on the roster.
Yeah, my friend Scott, he says doesn't have his MVP, but he has his LVP, and it's Kenyon Green. We're going to get to that for sure. Stover and Schultz, couple of first down catches to start the next possession. But Tom, Stroud takes a huge hit from DeForest Buckner because Scruggs lets him by. And Kenyon Green was staring off in space instead of helping Stroud. 2 plays later, Green whiffs on his guy, leaving CJ to get killed again. And finally, Tom, finally, they bench Kenyon Green. And I'm just stunned that it took them this long. And I'm not done with this, by the way, after we talk about this little period right here. But it's to the point now, it's total incompetence by the Texans from the top down, starting with Strausser, Slowik, D'Amico, Caserio. All of these guys have messed this up. And I cannot believe that Kenyon Green was still starting at this point in the season. And we're here right now. And meanwhile, CJ Stroud's going to end up in a stretcher.
I know what you're saying. I understand. I don't know where you want them to go. Patterson came in, looked okay, got hurt immediately. Everybody's been clamoring for Kendrick Green. But either you're discrediting what they're seeing in practice and training camp and all these things to not play Kenyon Green off as soon as they pulled. Kendrick Green as soon as they pulled Kenyon Green. So if you either don't have any faith in this coaching staff at all to figure this offensive line out, or you have to trust them. You can't be in the middle. For me, I don't know that Kenyon Green is the guy. I'm ready to be on that train. I'm ready to get for the longest time. He's a first round pick. This guy came highly touted out of Texas A&M. He's super young, super green. They had to figure him out. Green, funny name. Anyway, I'm ready to be done with Kenyon Green. I can't, but I don't know where you go at this point. I don't know. Patterson looked like he might have been the guy, but now he's hurt. Concussions are a fickle thing. You don't know how long it's going to be with Patterson. I don't know how you fix it. And it's not just him. I know we're harping on him. He's the easy fall guy. This whole offensive line and this play calling is not good.
No, okay. First of all, I'm going to get to Bobby Slowik. We can talk about the play calling because we're going to get to that. But I'm going to focus on Kenyon Green here for a second. He's the worst offensive interior lineman. I just spoke about it 4 days ago. I said it was time to bench Kenyon Green. I thought it was time to have been subbing him out prior to the Green Bay game. The Green Bay game to me was final straw. They were getting crisscrossed left and right on the left side. That's where the issue is all the time. Look, Laramie Tunsil has got his issues, but the guy doesn't typically end up being a turnstile over there. On the right side, Titus Howard and Shaq Mason, whatever you want to say, that's never the side that the problem. The side there is one consistency. It is on the left side. It's stunning on the left side. Scruggs gets a lot of this because, he's getting screwed because of what Green's done. But it doesn't matter if it's Green and Tunsil or Green and Scruggs. It doesn't matter because it's always the same guy right in the middle of it. And he was just awful. Guys were just knocking him over or running by him all day long. I'm going to get to more of that as we go along in the game. But who do you want to put over there? Literally anybody. Bring Hannah McNair. She's got more toughness. Bring her down from up in the box. She's got more toughness. Tank Dell's got more toughness as a blocker. Anybody's got more toughness. Blake Fisher played guard in training camp. He's a talented dude. I mean, there's a reason why he was a second-round pick at tackle. Tackles usually have a lot of physical ability. I'm not saying he's going to be great at guard, but I don't think he's a turnstile the way Kenyon Green is in pass blocking. And he would probably do a lot better as far as, knowing how to talk with the tackle and communicate or whatever, because he has been a tackle. And you've got Kendrick Green. You can say, well, who's Kendrick Green? Well, he started last year and he looked good as a starter. There was no problem if he's listed as a guard. If you don't trust him to play, then cut him and go get somebody that can play. Even some of the scrubs that they were bringing off the practice squad last year would be better than what I saw. This is ridiculous. He's terrible. He's god awful. It looks like he's lost all confidence. He's physically getting beat, like at the point of attack. They were not going to into CJ Stroud. And he's also physically getting beat. Guys are going by him left and right. There were times that Mixon was hit in the backfield, Tom. There were times he's hit in the backfield because it was Kenyon Green's guy, or Kenyon Green's guy was knocking him into the running back in the backfield. That is awful. That's the guy that you drafted as a first-round pick, 15th in the draft. I'm sick and tired of it. This is not just a Strausser problem, because Strausser is hired by D'Amico and Caserio. All of them get the blame on this. Caserio drafted him. If Caserio doesn't have a guy behind him ready to go, that is on Caserio. And if he doesn't have a guy ready to go because Strausser hasn't coached him up, that's on everybody. It's on the whole. And D'Amico has to say enough is enough is enough. And it was terrible. And I'm sick of it. And somebody's got to, like, I don't want to hear the excuses of D'Amico. It's like, we're working on it. We heard that the whole story. We've heard that week after week on this offensive line. We know one guy doesn't belong as an offensive lineman. Okay. And if you can't figure it out, then we need to get a new head coach, because you know who the most valuable guy in this organization is? It's not D'Amico Ryans. It's not Nick Caserio. He wears the big, quarterback number 7. He's got CJ Stroud on the back. Remember that guy? That's the guy. And you have been given the golden guy right here, Tom. You've been given the golden guy. And to say, we don't care about protecting this guy. We're willing over our egos that this guy was a first-round pick and we made him the starter. That's your fault. That's on you. And I have a hard time believing that people say, oh, Caserio doesn't want the move because no, Caserio worked with Bill Belichick. Guys are disposable. I don't think he cares. He just wants them to get the job done. If they got to pull him, because D'Amico would say, I want to pull him, and Caserio would go, okay, that's fine. That's it. But enough is enough. Enough is enough.
I agree with you. I don't think you're going to lose a coach and a GM over this. I think this is something that they will address in the offseason. I think right now.
No. There's no addressing in the offseason. You better address it now. Either you start somebody else next week or you make a trade. And I don't care if you have to give up a second-round pick to the Colts and a second-round pick the year after that and a second-round pick the year after that. They got a Pro Bowler on the Browns right now that might be available because the Browns have got some issues. Okay. So we could give them back some picks that we owe them that favor after Deshaun Watson, but go out and find a guard if you do not have a guy on the roster. But I would at least like to run somebody else out there, and it shouldn't have taken until the second quarter. And CJ Stroud to be on the sideline looking like he looked like David Carr. He looked like he was out in space right there. He looked like a guy that was beaten and hit and bruised, and he wasn't over there yelling at the offensive lineman because he knows it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything.
I agree. But I don't see them going out and trading the draft picks that you just talked about. I hope I'm wrong, but it's just not their MO. When we said they needed a safety, they did not go make that move for a safety. There was one that all they had to do was go pay. They did not do it. Now, will we see Kendrick Green? Maybe. But they got
you say they don't go out and trade for guys. They went out and traded a second-round pick for Stephon Diggs in the offseason. They've gone out and they've traded a pick for Mixon. It was a low-round pick, but they went out and traded a low-round pick for Mixon. They've made deals when they felt like it was time to make a deal. There's no way you consider this as not the most important part of the team with CJ Stroud. There's no way.
I think if they were already going to make a move for a guard, they would have already done it. Now, if something changes league-wide where they get a steal, they may do something. But I don't think you're going to trade a second-round pick for a guard right now. I know you want that. I know the fan base wants that. Get this guy on a rocket out of here. I agree. But I just don't see him doing that, especially with a game in, 4 days. They're not going to do that. I hope that they fix it. I just don't know that they're going to fix it the way you want.
Brandon says trade for Robert Hunt. I don't know, but find somebody somewhere, somehow. I do not want Kenyon. I want Kenyon Green as far away from this team as you can possibly do. He needs to be cut at this point. If he's healthy, his career is over with for the Texans, as far as I'm concerned. Like, Gerard Johnson was yelling at him on the sideline. And then he goes out, and I'm going to get to that in a second. He goes out and stinks it up. So, okay, I'm going to move on. But, the Kenyon Green thing, like, I cannot be more angry, as you can tell, about that. The Colts' next possession, total breakdown by the Texans. Secondary, Josh Downs, wide open 69-yard touchdown catch. What did you see here, Tom? Petrie looked like he might have been picked. Bullock kind of in no man's land after that. I thought he didn't see the pick and what exactly had happened. He kind of went left when he should have gone right on there. But what did you see?
So Petrie 100% got picked. He ran into the other wide receiver. That should have been a penalty. I think they caught that later in the game because they ran the similar play and got a similar result, and there was a flag. But that whole play was trash for me. Will Anderson is held 6 ways from Sunday. They couldn't block him all day. And then the pick play happens, and Petrie falls to the ground. I forget who the other defender was, tried to get back, but by then it was too late. For me, it's a penalty. It should have been a penalty. It should have never happened. And this game would not have been as stressful had that not happened because the Colts couldn't move the football.
Yeah, thanks, James, by the way. The one drive with Patterson, plenty of evidence. And here we go. Texans finally put together a drive, thanks mostly to Joe Mixon, the entire offense for most of this game. And Tom, the extra effort on that touchdown was just special. Yeah,
Joe Mixon has been the MVP for me of this season. When he plays, the team is just different. Obviously, the run game. But I think you see him. He's just a cheerleader. He's just got this energy. D'Amico's talked about it. This team functions better with him just in the locker room. Everything he does, I feel like he does it with more passion than you see some guys do it. And I'm just glad that he's a Texan.
Texans can't catch a break because, we talked about getting Patterson in there and they lose him on the Mixon touchdown. For the second home game in a row, the Texans lose a player to injury on a second quarter touchdown. You can't even celebrate a touchdown with the Texans without going, oh no, who's down? It's a big guy. And what I loved also about Mixon, he wasn't too busy, Tom, celebrating to check on Patterson when he was in the medical tent for a concussion. The guy has had some stuff in his past, but the leadership, the presence of this guy, not just on the field, but what he's done elsewhere, you see it. It's visual.
Absolutely. The fact that he walked all the way to the tent to go see how the guy was, I think that speaks volumes about what he is now, like to what you spoke to. Joe Mixon, for me, he's so critical to what this team could be going forward.
Yeah, and also I want to mention the fact that Patterson, I want to wish him well. He's got the concussion. Hopefully he comes back. But Jared Patterson hasn't had any luck. He was really good at center last year before he got hurt. I wanted to see that continue. I don't think the offensive line was the same after Patterson went down. There's something about that kid that just, look, he never allowed a sack at center in college, and he didn't allow one last year with the Texans. That's something to say, considering who we got at quarterback. Now, before we roll on, just a quick reminder, I want you to share your thoughts on YouTube. Even if you're not watching this thing live, click the like button to support the show. And if you haven't done so, subscribe on YouTube. Listen while you're on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast app. Back to the action. Next Colts possession, 3 and out. Will Anderson, an athletic chase down, 3rd down sack. Great play. With Patterson injury, Kenyon Green back in the game. Very first pass attempt. Kenyon's guy forced Stroud to throw early. Next play, Stroud gets hit again by Kenyon's guy. And then I just mentioned the Gerard Johnson. They mentioned it on the broadcast, him yelling at Kenyon before he even went into the game. He was supposed to protect Stroud better, according to Gerard. Well, that didn't happen. So let's go to the next drive. Next play, Stroud running for his life again on 3rd down. Where's Blake Fisher? Where's anybody? But I can't believe it's 3 straight passes at that point with Kenyon Green not being able to block anybody. Slowik and Strausser, they got to be held accountable. Like you're screwing up a soup sandwich. This is not difficult. And I keep going back to the fact this is organizational. Like D'Amico telling me at halftime in the interview that, we got to do something on the offensive line. Quit telling me. Start doing it.
Well, I Bleav he's telling you because you're going to talk to it. I Bleav he's going to get talked to at the next post game. I Bleav Wednesday he's going to talk to it. This is going to be an ongoing thing. So if you don't want to hear him say that he's going to do something or try to do something about the offensive line, I don't know what else you want him to say. I don't know. Then don't ask the question, but I guarantee he's going to get it. I wish this offensive line was better, and I don't Bleav it's just Kenyon Green. I Bleav there's a lot going on here, and it's not just him. It's easy. He's the weakest link, no question. But when you look at some of the other guys, Titus got beat on a couple plays, Scruggs got beat on a couple plays, Tunsil had a false start again, which he gave us a nice 3-game break. I loved, but he got back into the action. I think there was some play calling that I think needs to be really discussed because Bobby Slowik is not helping this line either. And you've got tight ends blocking people. You got wide receivers blocking people. You just can't do that. You can't beat teams like that.
No question about it. They said it earlier. One of our viewers talked about it. One of our fans just said, hey, it doesn't help. Like, to call plays like you have one of the best offensive lines. And let me also point out to Bobby Slowik, like I defended him for a long time. I was trying to defend him, especially after what happened last year. The defenses are off. They're off everybody in this organization right now because they're winning games, but they're winning games because other teams are screwing stuff up. Let's keep going. Texans D, another 3-and-out. Next possession. Kenyon's still there and another 3-and-out, but Kenyon Green gets thrown to the ground on 3rd down. Bad 3rd down throw by Stroud, but it's obvious you can tell. You can just see he's lost trust in the offensive line. It's not there anymore. And that's why he's rushing these throws. That's why he's freaked out every time somebody comes at him. Texans D, though, another 3-and-out. Offense gets in field goal range this time. But then, Tom, all right, here we go again. Play calling. Bobby Slowik, their last 2 plays. They slowed it down like they were scared Richardson was going to move the ball. Why are you scared about Richardson moving the ball instead of moving fast so then you could run the ball, which you could do with the Colts because they're terrible at it. And then Stroud gets pressured twice. Finally, he's sacked out of field goal range. Now, Stroud needed to get rid of the ball there. Just dumb football all over the place right at that point in the game.
Yeah. As much as I want to be right here, lockstep with you, talking offensive line, I feel like the bigger key, the bigger thing for me in all of this is Bobby Slowik. Bobby Slowik has the keys to this Ferrari. And for me, when I look at the way he's calling these plays, A, he's not helping a bad offensive line or CJ Stroud with that bad offensive line. He's not calling plays to do that. And B, his unwillingness to push the gas that you've been calling for, I feel like, especially when you've got your defense that's playing so well, have faith in the defense to be able to go get you a stop or do whatever and drive and go and push the ball downfield. Some of these plays, just the likelihood of them succeeding just seems so dumb because that they're on the line. The defense is on the line. Where are they going to go? There was a reverse to Diggs at one point, and I was like, what on earth are we doing there? Like, why would you go east and west when you know you can go north and south? So for me, that's where my heat is at the moment. It's got to be better. I'm not firing the guy, but he's definitely not ingratiating himself for me, like long term. If some team wants to come get him and make them their head coach, you go right ahead, because I don't think he's winning football games the way he's calling plays.
Yeah, Texans Spurs says fire Slowik. I don't think it's going to happen, but it doesn't bode well for him at the end of the season. Let me put it that way, the way things are going. And I'm not done with him in this game. We still haven't even gotten to the worst play call of the whole game by Slowik, and it's worse by far. Texans, though, can be thankful for Richardson. Thank you very much, because after throwing a near pick to Lassiter, who, by the way, was fantastic coming back. Oh, my goodness. It was so good to see him instead of D'Angelo Ross out there. But then Petrie, huge INT, Stroud hit Stell for the touchdown, and Tom, perfect CJ pass as he was getting hit by, guess who? Kenyon Green's guy. And then a nice tiptoe catch by Tank Dell. All the way around, both sides did a good job, except the one guy who before mentioned.
To be clear, and I want to be very clear, the only reason Kenyon's Green guy hits CJ Stroud is because Titus Howard's guy gets beat. CJ has to push up into the pocket which was actually probably a better pocket than it's been. And there was nowhere else for him to go. So as much as we want to lump on Kenyon Green, and we can, he's not good. Titus gets beat there, or CJ is able to sit back in the pocket and hit a Tank without any duress. For me, great play by CJ, great play by Tank because he tiptoed the back of the end zone, which I think is a lost art. And those guys went out and got us a touchdown.
Well, my point there would just be that, I'm not going to kill Titus because he didn't totally get beat, or Stroud would have gotten hit. He had a chance to move up in the pocket. And then, he's done it.
I just did that to Kenyon Green. You just said the same thing.
No. Kenyon Green, we're talking about, he's got a laundry list of stuff right now. Titus, you want to give me 30 plays that Titus was bad in this game? Go ahead, because I've got about 30 on Kenyon Green right now. It's not even close. And Titus, by the way, if you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers and just my eye test, he's fine. He's not a Pro Bowler. You're not getting Pro Bowl numbers out of that, or All Pro, I should say, because that's what really counts. You're not getting that. But he's totally a solid right tackle, I think, this year. And I feel like everybody's mad at him, probably more because of what they're paying him. If he was a rookie on this salary, it wouldn't matter. Let's go to the third quarter. Texans catch another break. Colts incompetence on offense. Richardson fumbles the read option, forcing them out of field goal range. First play from scrimmage for the Texans offense. Kenyon knocked into Joe Mixon in the backfield. I think I mentioned that earlier. But then Hutchinson, an incredible diving first down catch. Stroud finds a wide open Stephon Diggs for the rare chunk play by a wide receiver since Nico's injury. But Tom, after getting into field goal range, the Texans again take way too much time getting into plays off and on. On second, third down, they screwed up both downs. Scruggs rushes a bad snap on one of them, and then the Colts might have just timed up the pass rush on the third down. It's not hard when the other team doesn't give themselves any chance to adjust. We talk about it every week. It was discussed again this week. We've had it discussed by Stroud and D'Amico, and nothing changes with Slowik's offense. It is the Bobby slower, and slowest offense.
Yeah, I think they talked about it on the broadcast where they're having a hard time getting in the huddle. It's not getting out of the huddle, it's getting in the huddle. And for me, that leads directly to Bobby Slowik's ability to have a play ready to go, to play chess instead of checkers. And for CJ, it really doesn't leave him a lot of time to make adjustments when the play clock is constantly running down on him because they've already spent all the time on the front end. So I really feel like Bobby Slowik's got to do something. There's been a lot of people coming for his neck, and I thought it was unfair at first. But the more and more I watch this team struggle to call plays with the weapons that they have, I just don't understand it. And there's nowhere else to go with that for me but Bobby Slowik.
And Bleav said CJ's getting David Carr-like treatment. He's mad, and don't blame him. Agree with that. I mentioned that earlier. And thankfully, Fairbairn continues to do his job because the Texans go up by 10 at that point. After the defense shuts down the Colts, the special teams, they kind of blow it. Offsides by Fatukasi. A couple penalties on special teams. It's not been the best of years for Ross's special teams. That gives a chance for them to go for it. So Richardson runs for it on first down. Then Jonathan Taylor breaks one to the 10. It wouldn't be a Texans-Colts game without Jonathan Taylor killing us at least once. After the PI gets called back for a touchdown, Colts settle for a field goal. Texans next possession. Tunsil, he hadn't reached his penalty quota in a couple of weeks. So, Lermy, I just want to change his name to Illegal Procedure Tunsil. Like, can we do that? Can we just put that down in the roster? Illegal Procedure Tunsil, just to embarrass the guy to the point of like, you're not going to do this anymore. The announcers have to bring it up now. That is his record 8th, illegal procedure penalty this year. It's unbelievable. But Stroud gets out of it with that great throw on the run to Mechie. Perfect throw. Well done by John Mechie, who we don't get to talk about much, but he's going to have to do more because guess what? We're going to talk about it soon. Diggs is about to get injured. Another shot to finish off a drive with the touchdown, but Slowik, again, Bobby Slowik, what is your deal? Do not call screen plays inside the red zone. If you're going to do a screenplay, do a misdirection, something that's different. If you just do a regular screen in a short field, you can't fool anybody.
I agree. And the more and more I got into this game, the more and more I felt like play calling has been more and more problematic in the sense that you're giving the team less to work with. You're giving the team less opportunity to take advantage of some of their skill guys. And to me, if this isn't gonna be fixed, it doesn't matter what the offensive line does. Obviously, the important thing is to protect CJ, number one. But I feel like there has to be something where they get into plays that are going to be less on long development or at least more game management to an extent with what you're talking about, where if I'm in the red zone, I have a totally different play call than if I'm at the 50. And I just feel like Bobby's really struggling with some of these things, and you're seeing it on the field.
I don't know if Gerard Johnson would do anything differently, but I would at least have a discussion if I was Nick Caserio, like, where are you at right now? What do you think of this play calling? What would you do in some of these situations? Would you do something different? Because if you do want to get rid of Slowik and you do want to change things around midseason, and that happens in the NFL all the time, we know that. Usually it's just really bad teams. But the Texans are winning, not because of Bobby Slowik, I don't think. So, like, it's at least should be worth a discussion about Gerard Johnson. And Christopher says, I hate feeling like this during a victory. And I agree. It's terrible. And, it's just... Anyway, so Fairbairn gets his third field goal. The Colts drive, but after the Texans catch a break on Goodson's drop touchdown pass, Downs, an incredible catch at the 1. Just got to tip your cap there. Taylor punches in. You can't be mad, really, can you, at Petrie on the Downs coverage, Tom?
No, not really. I thought Petrie played great. I think Petrie's been getting better as the season's gone on. I really think for the people that were out on him last year, for the people that said he couldn't be on this team this year, he's really proven a lot of the doubters wrong. I think he's really played really good football. The safety position, you're going to get beat from time to time. I don't think he was necessarily beat. It was good coverage. I think he was there. Just one of the rare good throws by Richardson, hit a receiver where he had to hit him. And I'm okay with Petrie. I really am.
Yeah, and he might have been in the MVP conversation of this game for the Texans. I don't know if that play screws them out of that. I mean, even though we don't feel like it's his fault, but anyway, after Mixon put the team on his back, again, Slowik calls. All right, what the hell is this? This pitch play. What the hell is this? Tom, what kind of awful decision? Why are you running a pitch play? Mixon, like all game long, all year long, it's just a straight handoff. You're taking a chance with two guys that aren't used to doing this. I'm not putting it on Mixon. I'm not putting it on Stroud. That was a dumb decision. And again, at the end of a game, Bobby Slowik comes up with the stupid. We can go back to the Bengals. Remember that play in the Bengals game last year? And they had to go and win that game. I think it was in overtime, right? When Stroud throws that third down interception, then I was like, why are they doing? What are they doing there? It's the only way you get them the Bengals back in the game. I mean, you don't want to get rid of him yet. You don't think he can. I don't know. This is a lot. This is a lot. Just in this game, how many times have we talked about it? Him screwing up a whole thing at the end of a drive that basically messes you up and screws you out of a chance to get a touchdown.
Absolutely. I did feel like CJ did not pitch that ball well, but like you spoke to, that's not something that they do a lot. For me, that goes back to Bobby Slowik. Like you said, the more and more, like I keep harping, the more and more I watch this game, I could be mad at Kenyon Green. I could be mad at CJ Stroud. I could be mad about a bunch of different things, but I feel like the leader of this right now for me, of all of these things that are issues for me, is Bobby Slowik. Now, do I believe that D'Amico will do something in that aspect to step in and go, okay, I need somebody else? I don't know. That's really going to be what remains to be seen. But for me right now, Bobby Slowik is at the center of a lot of these problems.
And remember, in the offseason, when everybody was coming after him, the Texans threw a ton of money and a longer-term deal. And I don't know what's involved in that deal, but you now have to seriously think, what were we thinking with that? We can go find another offensive coordinator. This guy, was he a genius because he's a genius, or was he a genius because CJ Stroud just made him look about as good as you possibly could last year. So the Texans, this game really, if I'm being honest with you, the savior, it's either Joe Mixon or the other guy was Danielle Hunter, because those two plays, man, that's why you pay the man, Tom. The sack and the pressure, forcing the bad throw, back-to-back plays. I mean, that was the biggest moment of the game, I thought.
Absolutely. I thought this defense, and I saw somebody tweet it out, I Bleav it was Houston Stressens, says when whole, this defense could be Super Bowl caliber. It's really going to depend on the offense to do just enough, because you talk about how well this defense played and all the plays they made. They're missing their starting linebackers. Like, those are like quarterbacks for your defense. So when you start looking at the way this team could be towards the end of the season, the defense is probably going to lead this team, which you wouldn't have thought going into the season.
Yeah, if you get those guys back, it's just like, okay, when are these guys coming back? Toa looks like he's probably close. He at least was out at practice. Hopefully he's close. I don't know if he's going to be ready on Thursday. With the Z's, there's no sign. So I don't know if they just decide to sit him out. I mean, if he's not ready for this game, I can't see him being ready in 4 days. Christian Harris, who knows? Like, you got three guys that, like, we have no idea when any of these guys are coming back. The first two I would assume are coming back. Christian Harris, I don't know. Did he get abducted by aliens? I haven't seen him. I think he's, he might have, he might have just left the country or something. I don't know where he is, but there's no Christian Harris sightings anywhere. So let's go to the last couple of series. Slowik runs 3 times with Mixon, says trust the defense. You good with that? I don't know what else you're going to do there.
I think if he'd have thrown it and left more time on the clock, I think that would have been a different talking point. Obviously, with the struggles of the offensive line, I think the idea was, look, make them use their timeouts. It's kind of like last week, right? You would have liked them to get the first down to ice the game away, but this was a way to kill the clock. I think instead of them throwing on 3rd and 10, they decided, hey, let's run the football. I didn't love it, but I understood it.
Yeah, and this is a totally different story than last week. Last week it was Jordan Love. This week it's Anthony Richardson. So, and his weapons too. So it was a night and day difference. I was scared on that throw with 17 seconds left that Hewitt could have easily gotten called for the PI, Tom. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised.
It was close. I think the thing that made it interesting was, I don't know if he could have caught that. It was a little bit out in front. I think that would have been the conversation there, is that was it a catchable ball? Dodged the bullet, I guess.
Yeah, we have somebody saying O-line has nothing to do with 3 runs and a punt. We don't have an issue with it. That's not a deal. O-line, Bleav says, fixes to fire bad employees. None of us would keep our 8 to 5s performing like this for 8 weeks. And, definitely, if I was Kenyon Green, I'm out on the street by now. He's still out there because, he's got the magic of a 1st-round pick to his name. If this guy was a 3rd-round pick, if he was a 4th-round pick, whatever. Like, literally, we've seen nothing from him. First year, we saw nothing from him. This year, we've seen nothing from him. It's been a joke. It's time for the guy to go. And I can't get too upset for them drafting him, because I made this point. I saw all the boards had him in the 1st round. There wasn't anybody that thought, oh, that's a crazy pick. I mean, Kyle Hamilton was out there. They should have picked him because he's an impact guy. I don't think you pick guards in the 1st round if you can find somebody that can impact turnovers and who's in a leadership role, which I think a safety is more of a leadership role than a guard. And there's nothing that I've heard from Kenyon Green about him being a leader either. So, like, Kyle Hamilton was the pick there. And for some reason, they didn't do it. And that was a big mistake by Caserio.
Hindsight is always 20/20, though. I think if you just said,
no. This isn't hindsight. There were a lot of people that loved Kyle Hamilton. I had Joe DeLeon on my show. He's a regular. He covers the draft. That's his gig. That's all he does year-round, 24/7. He's a Mel Kiper of podcast. And he said, Texans should have gotten Kyle Hamilton. He goes, that was a top 3 guy talent-wise on my board. He's an impact player. Kenyon Green is, you can get one of those guys later. You don't have to go with that. They had a bunch of picks that year. Remember, they had 2 first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, I think. I mean, that was all of the Cleveland capital. Remember, they picked Petrie, and then they picked Mechie and Christian Harris, and they got all those guys in that draft. Well, you could have just picked Kyle Hamilton instead of Kenyon Green. You could have always picked up a guard later in the draft. You could have picked up the guard in the second round when you picked Petrie up. I mean, that would have been the time to do it. But
and if that guy had stunk, the third round, fourth round, whatever, if he'd been playing this bad, you'd have been saying, why didn't they draft Kenyon Green? At the time, no one knew that this guy was going to be this bad. To say that you invested first round capital to defend or to protect your franchise quarterback was not a bad thing. I don't think the pick of Kenyon Green was bad. Now, Kyle Hamilton's been a stud. Now everyone can say, man, that was a stud the Texans could have had 100%, but it works the other way. Hindsight, like I said, hindsight's 2020. I don't think anybody would say this year, if they take their first round pick and go draft a guard, anybody's complaining about that. I think they should, but if you want to get one in the third round, you're gambling.
Yeah. This year is number one. This year is differently. Number two, guards, unless they're just out of this world, typically don't get drafted. They're not a priority in the first round. I'm sorry. Like if you're an NFL team builder, you understand this. Like guards, we can go find those guys in the second and third round. And they weren't protecting CJ Stroud. They were protecting Davis Mills. That's who they were protecting at that time. And Davis Mills was not somebody I was worried about. Like I'm sweating. Oh my God. What about Davis Mills? We got to protect him. Come on, Tom. Like
you draft guys to build the roster. You're protecting whoever the next guy is. If you didn't believe in Davis Mills, which it sounds like you didn't, they were going to draft somebody else or they were going to go sign somebody else. I don't think they went into that draft going, well, we don't have a guard. Let's just pick one. I think they legit thought they were getting a good player. Now we've seen that he's not. I understand that. I am not fighting you on this. What I am saying is I'm not upset with Chavarria for picking a guard in the first round.
Yeah, to me, it's value. And I don't look at drafts just as far as, talent. I look at them as far as value and what matters in team building. I look at team building when I look at drafts. Okay. Nobody drafts a running back anymore in the first round because those guys typically are a dime a dozen. Okay. They're gone pretty quickly. Quarterbacks get drafted in the first round sometimes when they don't look like maybe they're high first round picks because the quarterback position is the most important position. I'm just putting value on a guy that's more of a game changer. I know the value says right now, safety isn't a big deal, but if you get a game changing safety, if you get a guy that, can get you interceptions, can turn the field on you, that can provide the leadership. We've seen the value of leadership on this team with what Diggs has been doing, with Joe Mixon's doing, Will Anderson, CJ Stroud. Leadership matters in that locker room. And so if you could get one of those guys like Kyle Hamilton, then, that's what I say. Go out and get him. Let's move on, though. Who's your Texans MVP right now for this one? Because, it feels like it's just got to be Joe Mixon. But, I'm up for debate with anybody else if you're interested. I think it was 5 carries, 101 yards or something like that?
No, he lost yards going into that final drive or whatever. So I think he finished with like 92 or something like that. But for me, I wasn't going to pick a guy. I just felt like the defense for me was my MVP. I thought that, they played really well, won the turnover battle, was in Richardson's kitchen all day long. I could pick Will Anderson Jr. I could say Danielle Hunter. I could say Jalen Petrie. It's kind of a cop-out. I get it. I love what Mixon did. We don't win the game without Joe Mixon, but I really love what this defense looks like going forward. And if I got a game ball, I'm giving it to the defense.
I'm going to go ahead and give it to Mixon. He had ESPN has him with 25 carries, 102 yards. He carried the offense. He was the offense, even though Stroud was like 25 for 37 for 285 and a touchdown, which is it's actually surprising to me that he did get that many yards. And he did do well, but I still felt like the biggest yards, the biggest gains on the day, the game changers to me was mostly Joe Mixon. Although like Hutch made a great catch, there were some really good catches. And also you look at on defense, Will Anderson, if you want to give it to him, 7 tackles, 5 solo, a sack, a tackle for loss. We mentioned the biggest plays of the game by Danielle Hunter. I can even go with the co-MVP on defense with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter with the 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. And then that huge hit on the quarterback that Danielle had. So, a lot of stuff is acceptable, but yeah, there was some definite good play by the defense. But I can't be mad at you for saying the defense overall. I will say this. I'm looking at the stats. We've had Denico Autry back for 2 weeks. How many tackles has he had? How many tackles for loss? And how many sacks? If you add them all together, how much has he had in all of those categories in the 2 weeks since he's been back?
To me, I think it's a bagel. I don't think he's got anything. I know he was in on a couple plays today where it was like, but again, I don't know what that's going to look like when you had a guy that didn't play for 6 weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get there. He wasn't an impact player that you're looking for, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It surprises me that he would somehow be out of shape because, he wasn't hurt. So I don't know like how long it takes you to get involved with game action, but you were right. It was a trick question. It was 0. Nothing. He's given the Texans really no impact that I've seen. I haven't even heard his name mentioned by any of the broadcast team on either of the games. So, really odd. The reason I think he would help is like when you're late in games, like this particular game, Denico, that's where he can really make a difference because if you're doubling Will and Danielle Hunter on the outside and they got to throw the ball, where's Denico at? Like, where's Autry at? And Caserio just raved about him a few weeks ago, just raved about him. And I was real confident in that move. But yeah, and the hope was that he could also help you on the inside. And without Mario Edwards, I thought, okay, maybe we can see him really do something and we could see what that looks like with Mario out, with the suspension. But yeah, you got nothing out of him.
The one thing I'll say is he's 34. This is his 11th season, so it might take a couple weeks. I don't think they need him to be great now. I think they need him to be great in November and December. That's for me, that would be big. The guy that we didn't talk about that I want to talk about that I thought had a really good game and literally just got off the bus, showed up and went right to work was Devin White. Signed this guy. Philly didn't want him, came right in, played a ton today, was in on some tackles today. I thought Devin White had a really good game.
Yeah, the numbers on Devin White in his first game with the Texans, 3 tackles, 2 solo, no sacks or TFLs or anything like that. But I didn't really get a chance to focus on him. I mean, the one play that you really saw him get highlighted was where he got beat for the touchdown against the running back. That's not good when your linebacker's going up against the running back by himself. I thought the safety should have been a little bit closer on the help side, on the backside with that. But it might have been just really good play design by the Colts on there. The one thing that we got to talk about now, though, is the loss of Stephon Diggs. I mean, if Diggs is hurt, if this is like a long-term deal, boy, I mean, this is why you have the depth at wide receiver before the season started. Next week, it's going to be Tank Dell and the Tank Dellettes out there. So, you hope that you can get something from Robert Woods, and he's just kind of a solid possession guy. You hope you can get more from Xavier Hutchinson. I want to see what Xavier Hutchinson can do. And the other thing is, let's move Tank Dell inside. Like, now that Diggs is out, let's move Tank inside. You notice as soon as Diggs, is out of the game, we see Tank starting to catch more passes. And I think Stroud's leaning on him a little bit more. But that's why you have the depth. I mean, everybody said, oh, there's too many guys. You can't get it to all of them. It's the NFL. They're going to get hurt. They got guys on this roster we knew were going to get hurt potentially. Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They have a long history of it. Not so much with Diggs, but still, it's good to have some depth.
Absolutely. I think another key thing that I think we're going to see more of is the tight ends. I thought the tight ends looked decent today. I thought you got good receptions from Cade Stover. He turned a 3-yard play into a first down. I think Dalton Schultz had a couple of good grabs when he had, the ball, and CJ had time to find him. Those are guys that I think can win, and you can use those guys to offset the loss of Diggs. You can use those guys to get you to bridge the gap until you get Nico Collins back, which I hear is week 10, which could be, the best news of the day really is that he's progressing well. So, I think the tight ends, I think you're going to see X. I like X. Mechie had a grab that I thought, could get him going. And then obviously Tank Dell.
if Stroud gets hit this next game, I haven't looked at the New York weather forecast, but I hope they don't have a frozen field, because remember what happened last time they went up there and Stroud started to get hit and he snapped his head, and we lost him for a couple of games with a concussion. So like, I don't know what you're going to do about the offensive line or Slowik in 4 days. Like, that's my concern. Like, what changes, Tom? They have 4 days to change this. You're not bringing anybody in the next 3 days that's going to change it. Maybe they decide, okay, let's do what Robert said. Let's throw out Kendrick Green. Why not? What the hell could it hurt? It can't be worse. In my opinion, it cannot be worse.
For me, what I thought, I don't know if it was Robert. I don't know who said it. Somebody said it in the chat, but it was basically the rollout game. Get him out on the edge. Get him moving around a little bit. He obviously is very accurate on the run, and don't leave him in the pocket to take some of that punishment. And then I would also like to see, which I didn't see today, which I thought I would, CJ use his legs a little bit. Smart, always slide, out of bounds, that sort of thing. But just adding a different element so that maybe, the defense isn't just pinning their ears back and then coming right after him every single down.
All right. You might have thought when you saw that pitch and it looked like it was returned for a touchdown, you thought, man, I've seen a Texans-Colts game change on a dumb play and a weird thing. And where have I seen that? Colts beating the Texans. You know where you saw it, Tom? I hate to bring up a not so nice Texans memory against the Colts. But do you remember the infamous Rosencopter game?
Hard to forget.
Yeah. I talked to Sage Rosenfels about that. I just want to play this clip real quick because I love what he has to say about that. We talked to him a couple of years ago on the show. This is Sage.
I decided to go for it, and it backfired. And again, sort of going back to what I said before, as a backup third string guy, your natural predisposition is not to slide. Sort of sliding's for the wimps, sliding's for the starters who are making $20 million a year. I'm trying to earn my stripes out here, earn respect of my teammates, and I probably played the best game of my life up to that point. And I came around that left end, and all I saw was green grass, and no one was there. And I was like, I can run for this first down. As I was running and coming around the bend there, I can't remember what play it was. I think his name was Marlon Jackson, was a cornerback who was covering Owen Daniels on that play. He actually came off Owen once I sort of tucked the ball and let him go. And I think Owen ended up being pretty much wide open and came up, to make the tackle. Rather than, of course, trying to juke him, which really wasn't part of my skill set, I decided to jump over him, which was obviously a bad idea. Not long after that, and probably that following off season, I said, you know what, I decided to go for it. Things didn't work out, but what I can teach my kids is that I'd always rather have you go for it. Sometimes you fail, but people that don't go for it never accomplish anything.
Yeah, just a great little conversation I had with Sage Rosenfels. Go into the archive to find that full interview. There's more that he says when I asked him about that. That's real interesting. And, he talks about Andre Johnson and Kubiak and just his time with the Texans. It's real fun. Some other stuff about his career, real interesting career too. Tom, what did you think about what he said?
I loved it. I loved that he was like, look, I'm teaching my kids to go for it. Look, you saw dad go for it and it didn't always end out great, but he can't, at least you said, hey, I went out there and I tried to make the play. Love that for Sage. And I was a big fan when he decided, or when I guess he was getting his run. I mean, you always want to see those guys produce because the Texans drafted him. So yeah, I love it.
Jamie says, put Fisher in for Kenyon Green. So he agrees with that idea. And then Christopher says, Howard to left guard, Fisher to right tackle. I don't know, Tom. I'm done with the tightest left guard thing. Like, let's just leave well enough. Let's not screw two positions at the same time. And I think that's kind of what you would do there.
Yeah, you're never going to see that. I think Titus Howard has been very adamant. He wants no part of left guard. And I think they're gonna rather struggle with someone else than move Titus back to left guard.
Christopher agrees with you, Tom. He says White was solid in this game. So yeah, just like the good thing is with the Diggs injury is, like you said, Nico should be back here in a couple of weeks. You might only miss Diggs and Nico, neither one of them being out there for maybe 6 quarters or whatever it was. When did Diggs get hurt? Was it in the third?
Third quarter, yeah. Towards the end of it.
Yeah, so maybe 5 quarters in actuality. So that's the hope. If this is a big injury and he's going to be out for a while, and I assume if it's any kind of an injury, if he couldn't continue to play the rest of this game, I don't see any way he's ready in 4 days. So I'm gonna just take it into like fact. We're not seeing him against the Jets. It's not happening.
Yeah, and I'd rather him get all the way healthy. This game was so big because it really opens a huge chasm in the AFC South. It's really like a 3-game lead now. Not that I was ever concerned about any of those other 3 teams, just that you can afford to make sure some guys get healthy. Obviously, we want to win every game. 6-2, they're right at the top of the AFC in total, but they're definitely leading the division. So get right and prepare for that postseason run.
I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the Texans' bad blocking, but I don't know. Did you catch this? There was a play where Stroud was getting hit. He either got hit or they rushed a guy on the left side, and the Texans had on the left side, they had to block Tegan Cotoriano and Cade Stover. Both of them whiffed. Like one guy just ran around both of them like they were standing still. I mean, this is like become an epidemic with the Texans. Like, just keep a guy in front of you. Don't fall on your butt. Like, how about the simple stuff? Like, get a hand on somebody. Like, unimpeded. Guys are coming in literally untouched. It's unreal.
And that goes back to my Bobby Slowik thing. Why on earth is Tegan Toriano and Cade Stover both in the block on either side of the field? Like, that shouldn't be both of them. If both of them are in there, then we've got bigger problems. It should have been a running play. Like, the fact that you have those guys in there to block on pass protection seems like a crime.
Well, usually tight ends have to block sometimes, and the unfortunate thing is the Texans don't have any tight ends that can block. Brevin Jordan, we miss you. Our love to you, Brevin Jordan. I'm going to send you a Valentine's Day card because I really love you now more than I ever have after seeing the rest of these guys block. It's really, really sad. Check out Tom, by the way, on the Bullpen podcast. And on Tuesday, Steven and I are back for our midweek look at the Texans. And Tom, what are these people doing? Why am I getting updates from Astros fans on the World Series? Your job is to boycott the World Series as an Astros fan. This is a real simple thing. Do not talk about the Yankees and Dodgers. Don't do it. Don't succumb. Don't let Major League Baseball think we care. Don't watch the games. Like, don't give them ratings because, like, you don't want to see Dodgers and Yankees in the World Series. It's a bad look for baseball because it just looks like, oh, the 2 highest paid payrolls. The teams that just get to spend whatever they want to. They get a $1 jillion salary cap. Like, come on, like, stay away from that.
It's hard. You see a lot of those people that are only baseball fans, which I don't know how you do that. I love all the sports. I'm a junkie. It's fanatic. Is fans short for fanatic? I'm definitely a fanatic. So I'm watching all of them. And baseball ended for me when the Astros got knocked out. Yeah, I'll browse the highlights or whatever just so I keep current with what's going on. Maybe pick some guys that I'd like to see in Astros jerseys next season. But yeah, you're 100% right. For me, what are the Rockets doing? What are the Texans doing? What are the Dynamo doing? Watch the Dynamo, people. Houston Dynamo are in the playoffs.
It's Houston Sports Talk. We love them all over here. And thank you, Tom, for sticking with me through my rants and the long rants and a longer show because I needed some time to vent in this one. And now I'm going to let him get back to his kids. Thanks, guys, for sticking in with us for the whole show. And love talking to you guys. Love the comments. Thanks so much.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.